Hello everyone, my name is Brett Romero and we're going to look at how to implement a responsive slideshow for your website. And a couple of reasons you might want to do this is to access a very large mobile audience so that now your slideshow is viewable on mobile devices. And then we're going to use a framework because it's much quicker to use a framework than building it from scratch. The framework already has a lot of the code built in, and we just need to make a few modifications to our website so that the slideshow presents our images or photos and also presents them so that they're viewable on mobile devices. So let's get started and see how this is done. This is an example of a nicely done slideshow. You can see as I click through the dots down here, the different images come in and I've got buttons on the left and on the right that I can navigate through. But one problem is that as the screen gets smaller, you can see the images adjusting, and that's fine. But when you start getting to really small screens, the images just get clipped, which is what we don't want to happen on mobile devices. We're going to look at the responsiveslides.js and see how to implement a responsive slideshow using this framework. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here and we're going to go to a few examples and see how they're doing it. You can see this is a very similar setup to what we just looked at. Now the difference being as the screen gets smaller, you can see the images is adjusting, but as we go smaller and smaller and smaller, the image keeps adjusting, and then we get to this nice size that's at a mobile screen width, and we still can do complete navigation. We haven't lost that functionality, and scroll through all of our photos. So this is really great for mobile devices, and this is what we're going to implement. The first thing we're going to want to do is download the project files from this website. So if you scroll down to the very bottom, you can see download latest version from GitHub. And when you click over here, these are the 3 files that are going to be included, plus you have the MD file. The easiest thing to do is just download the zip file, which is right here in the bottom right corner. Once you do that, you can unzip it, and you'll end up with these files here, which are the same ones we just looked at on the website. I'm going to start with a blank file, and I'm going to go ahead and save it to the same location that all of my files are in. I'm just going to call this responsive slides. And you can see I've already got the CSS and the JS files right here from the zip in the same folder so that there's a way to reference them real easily. And if I go back to the website, there's a little bit of code we need to grab initially to get this working. And right here is what we want first. This is JavaScript. This right here is actually the same as this up here, except they've got all the options laid out for us, which makes it a little easier to see what's going on. So I'll put this in the head, and I'm going to do a script tag, and I'll close it and just paste that in. Now I need to actually add some images right here into the body section, and I have some code prepared to do that, and I'll just paste that in and turn on my live preview, and here are the images. So these images are also in the same folder as the JavaScript files and the CSS files. To structure a little better, you probably want to put all your CSS in a CSS folder, your JavaScript files in a JS folder, and reference them that way. You can also see I've got my JavaScript inside of my head tag, which I would probably want to put this in a JS file and just link to it. And the same is going to be true for JavaScript. I'd probably just want to put that in a CSS file, but just so we can see what's going on, I'm going to go ahead and just put it into the page like that. There's a little bit more code that we're going to need as well. They've got all of this CSS right here that we're going to copy out. And this is the images that I copied earlier and pasted in. You can grab that from here. So I'm going to copy this CSS, and we're going to paste that into a style tag. I can just put that right above my script tag. And you can see we're starting to get some dots on the edge of our images. So some of the styling is already taking effect. Now I want to get the reference to our files. I'm going to copy this piece of code here. So you can see they've got 3 sections. They got 1, and they've got 2, and then 3, and those are the sections that you want to copy all of this code from. And I'll just paste that above our styling. This right here is the jQuery library, and then this is going to be a minified version of the responsive slides JavaScript file that came in the zip. Actually, I am just going to reference the regular JavaScript file. I'm only doing that because there's not much difference in the size. The minified version just loads quicker, but because they're such similar sizes, it's not going to make that much difference. And you can also read this one because everything's not compressed together. And down here you can see there isn't much going on that has changed what's happening, but we're going to work on that in a little bit here. We're going to go back to the website and look at the examples because that's what we want to eventually get to, and particularly this first example. So I'm going to right click and do an inspect element to bring up the debugger, and then I'll do inspect on this image here, and you can see some of the things going on. They've got this wrapper, which is important. They've got this div right here, which is this rslides_container. And then here's the UL, and then they've got their list items that we also have, which are not decorated with all these attributes. But we're about to change a few things. Now, if we open up the head here on their site, they are making use of this themes.css, which we'll also need to make use of to produce this same kind of look. And then in the script that they have on their website, they have this visual responsive slideshow here. This is number 1, then they have number 2, and then they have number 3. And you can see they've also got this in their page 1, 2, and 3. What I want to do is actually copy out this number 1, since that's the one we're trying to mimic. So I'm going to do a show page source. I'll just copy this right here and go back to the editor. And inside of here, I can just paste that over what we had earlier because we're not going to actually use that. We're going to use this one. I'm going to grab a little bit of their function code. Go back to our editor, paste that in here, start the function. Now I need to close the function, and I'll grab this. And I only need one. I already have another down there, so we need 2 of these types of syntax. So we have now our R slides, but we don't have an R slides down here, so we need to add a few things down here to get this going. We go back and look, that's all going to come from the way they've set it up here as well. So if I inspect, we're going to go ahead and add our wrapper. We'll add our rslides container, but we're going to first add this themes. I've already downloaded this themes.css, and I'll just do a reference to it right up here. That's just going to be a regular link reference. And the relationship is style sheet. And then I'll do an href to themes CSS, and they were doing this 1.5 as well. And that moves things over a little bit, and I'm just going to keep working on that. Now we need to decorate our unordered list similar to what they were doing, and that should get us a lot closer. I'll go ahead and add this wrapper in this rslides_container just to get that out of the way. So this div is an id equals wrapper. We have another div, rslides container. I think this is actually a class. So let's see, we have actually class, yes, just on this one. So I'll change this ID to a class, and then we'll close these. like that. So not much visually changing there, but we'll keep going. And I'm just going to make sure I do have my theme inside of that, our main folder here. There it is. Themes.css is in the same folder as our responsiveslides.html. Then there's a few things that they had going on with this unordered list. So we'll start referencing classes. We had our slides, so that's our JavaScript from above, which we have right there. And then there were a few other classes that they chained in here. They had a centered.btns, then they had the centered/btns1, and this ID was called slider1, and that comes from our slider1 that we have here. I actually pasted our JavaScript, our jQuery, into a style tag, which I don't want to do. I want it to go inside of our script tag. So I am going to just move our script tag up here like this so that things are proper now. Okay, so our slider1 is referencing this slider1, so that's an ID we have. In order for this slider1 code to work, we actually need to wrap this in a function, which I'm going to do now. And then I'll grab this closing code here and close the function. So now you can see we're starting to get our functionality. We still have a little bit of formatting issues here with this dot. So we have our theme here, and we also need our responsive CSS. So I think it's responsive slides. Right there, responsive slides CSS. So I'll just type that in, responsive slides CSS. And now the formatting looks much better, and we have our full functionality. One last thing we want to do is add in a viewport, and I'm going to do that now with this meta code. This is for mobile devices so that you don't have to pinch and zoom to see anything. They'll just scale automatically to the proper size and width. And that is our responsive slideshow. And now that if I go ahead and make this really small, you can see it still has the same functionality as we saw earlier on the main website. And again, you can get this from responsiveslides.js. Just download the zip and follow the steps that we used here to implement your responsive slides, and you'll get the same kind of result we have here. Thank you for watching.